ever get that feeling? You're reading the news or maybe listening to some politician give a speech, and you just can't shake the feeling that maybe the truth's a little bit, well, flexible?
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
Right. So today we're going deep on that feeling. Why does politics sometimes feel so, well, dishonest? We've got a ton of sources for this one. Articles, some real in-depth political science journals, even some historical stuff to get some perspective.
Yeah, we're not just throwing accusations around. We want to really get into, like, the different reasons why this whole thing feels the way it does.
Exactly. So to kick things off, one thing we saw a lot in the research, this idea that politicians might lie, not like out of malice, but necessity.
Right, like it's almost built into the whole system. Think about it. Politics is all about compromise, right? Bringing together all these different groups, different interests.
Yeah, tons of different opinions.
Exactly. And to actually get anything done, sometimes you have to kind of smooth things over. Maybe not be totally upfront about every single detail. Yeah.
So that everyone can kind of get on board.
Yeah. Plus, there's this whole, like, pressure to connect with voters, right? You have to kind of speak their language, tap into what they're feeling.
Even if that means maybe bending the truth a little.
Well, some people would say so. It's all about getting that public support to actually get things done.
Okay, so maybe sometimes a little bit of, let's call it creative wording is just part of the game. But our sources are pretty clear. There's a huge downside too, right? This whole accountability thing.
Huge. Absolutely huge. Because once people start to feel like they're being lied to, that trust starts to disappear. And that's a real problem for, like, democracy in general.
Yeah, I mean, democracy is built on the idea that we can trust our leaders, right?
Totally. We need to believe they're being honest with us so we can make good decisions. If we can't trust the information we're getting, then, how are we supposed to choose the right people? How do we make sure things are running the way they should?
And that's where, like, the whole ethical mess comes in, right?
Yeah.
When is it okay to, well, not be totally honest? Where's the line?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. It's this constant balancing act for politicians.
Right.
Trying to do what they think is right, trying to get things done, but also, being honest with the people they represent.
And you know what's wild? This whole honesty thing, it actually affects how people participate in democracy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, if people feel like they're constantly being lied to, they might just tune out completely.
Absolutely. Why bother voting? Why bother getting involved if you think the whole system's rigged?
Right. What's the point?
Like a vicious cycle.
And then, of course, you've got the media in the mix, too.
Oh, yeah. They have a big role to play in all of this.
Sometimes they're the good guys, right? Exposing the lies, holding politicians accountable.
Yeah.
But sometimes it feels like they can make things worse, too. Sensationalizing things, focusing on the drama instead of the, like, actual facts.
Yeah. And the way they frame the story can really shape how people see things. It's not always as simple as truth versus lie.
Totally. And then there's this whole other layer of, like, culture, right? What one country considers a lie might be seen as, like, totally normal political maneuvering somewhere else.
Oh, yeah. Different cultures have completely different ideas about what's acceptable in politics.
So some real-world examples here, right? We all know about Watergate. That was, like, the ultimate lesson in how lying and cover-ups can just destroy people's faith in government.
Classic example.
Then you have stuff like the Brexit campaign with all those arguments about the economy and immigration, a lot of back and forth about whether those were actually true.
Right. A lot of gray area there.
And then, in a completely different context, you have the Philippines. They have a huge problem with misinformation during elections. And that can, like, really mess things up.
Oh, yeah. Misinformation can lead to all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
Violence, instability, people making decisions based on false information. It's a huge threat to democracy.
So basically, the big takeaway here is this. There's this constant tension in politics between, on the one hand, this idea that you need to be strategic, play the game, maybe bend the truth a little to get things done. And then on the other hand, you have this fundamental need for honesty and accountability, or democracy just falls apart.
Yeah, it's a tough balance.
Yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
So to leave you with something to think about, given all the pressure and all the complexity of politics, where do you personally draw that line between, smart politics and just plain lying? What are we as citizens are responsible for doing to make sure our leaders are telling the truth? Something to consider.
Definitely. It's something we all have to grapple with.